Life is a journey filled with countless choices and challenges, and every decision we make becomes a stepping stone that shapes our future. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning until we close them at night, we are constantly faced with decisions, some small and simple, others major and life-changing. Whether it is deciding what career path to follow, whom to trust as a friend, how to spend money wisely, or how to respond to difficult situations, each choice carries consequences that can affect not only our own lives but also the lives of others around us. The ability to make wise decisions is, therefore, one of the most valuable skills a person can possess. It determines our success, our happiness, and even our inner peace. Making wise decisions does not come naturally to everyone. It requires patience, knowledge, self-control, and the willingness to think before acting. In a fast-paced world where people often make decisions impulsively or under pressure, wisdom has become more important than ever. Many individuals make quick choices based on emotions, desires, or the influence of others, without considering the long-term results. Such unwise decisions often lead to regret, disappointment, and loss. On the other hand, wise decisions are guided by logic, understanding, and moral values. They bring stability, growth, and confidence into a person's life. The importance of decision-making can be seen in every stage of human life. A student deciding whether to study or skip class, a worker choosing between honesty and corruption, or a parent making choices about their children's education. All these situations require thoughtful decision-making. Every choice, no matter how small, adds up and shapes the person we become. A wise decision today can prevent failure tomorrow, while a careless one can lead to lifelong regret. Therefore, learning how to make wise decisions is not just a matter of intelligence. It is a matter of character and responsibility. Wise decision-making also involves understanding that actions have consequences. Before making a choice, a person should consider both the short-term and long-term effects. It requires thinking about what is right rather than what is easy or popular. People who make wise decisions are not those who never make mistakes, but those who learn from them, reflect on their experiences, and grow stronger. Wisdom comes from observation, reflection, and the courage to do what is right even when it is difficult. In today's society, where social media, peer influence, and fast information often lead people to act impulsively, the ability to make thoughtful, well-informed decisions has become a true sign of maturity. Wise decision-making protects us from regret, builds our reputation, and helps us achieve success in education, career, relationships, and personal growth. It allows us to live with confidence, knowing that our actions are based on understanding and purpose. There are many factors that can cause people to make poor or unwise decisions. Understanding these causes can help us avoid mistakes and make better choices in the future. 1. Lack of information or misunderstanding information. Making decisions is an essential part of life, yet not all decisions lead to positive outcomes. Unwise decisions are often the result of complex interactions between our knowledge, emotions, and environment. Understanding these underlying causes can help us make better choices and avoid costly mistakes. One of the primary reasons people make poor decisions is a lack of information or misunderstanding of information. Decision-making depends heavily on accurate knowledge. When choices are made based on incomplete, outdated, or incorrect data, the likelihood of failure increases. For instance, investing in a company without analyzing its financial health or market trends can lead to significant losses. Often, this is compounded by overconfidence, where individuals assume they know more than they actually do, leading them to underestimate risks and overestimate their abilities. Emotions also play a crucial role in decision-making. Feelings such as fear, anger, excitement, or sadness can cloud judgment, leading to impulsive or irrational choices. A person might buy an expensive item to feel better after a stressful day, ignoring the long-term financial consequences. Emotions narrow attention to immediate feelings rather than future outcomes, which can override logical reasoning and careful analysis. Another significant factor is cognitive bias. Humans naturally rely on mental shortcuts or heuristics to make decisions quickly, but these shortcuts can lead to systematic errors. For example, confirmation bias leads people to seek information that supports their pre-existing beliefs while ignoring contrary evidence. Anchoring bias causes individuals to rely too heavily on initial information, even if it is irrelevant. Overconfidence bias makes people believe their judgment is superior, resulting in poorly informed choices. These biases distort perception and prevent objective evaluation, often producing unwise outcomes. Social influence is yet another critical factor. Humans are inherently social beings, and peer pressure or the desire to fit in can sway decisions. Many people make choices not because they are rational but because they want approval or acceptance from others. Purchasing luxury items or following trends, even when unnecessary or unaffordable, is a common example. Social conformity is driven by the fear of rejection, which can override independent thinking. Short-term thinking is also a major contributor to unwise decisions. People often prioritize immediate gratification over long-term benefits, leading to choices that provide temporary pleasure but harm future outcomes. Eating unhealthy foods, overspending, or making risky investments for quick gains are all examples of decisions dominated by present bias. Similarly, lack of experience or knowledge can result in poor decision-making, as novices may rely on intuition rather than informed judgment. Without understanding the nuances of a situation, it is difficult to anticipate outcomes or evaluate risks effectively. Stress and fatigue further impair judgment. Physical exhaustion and mental pressure reduce cognitive functioning, limiting the ability to weigh options carefully. Under stress, the brain often resorts to quick, automatic responses instead of thoughtful analysis, which can lead to hasty and regrettable decisions. Misaligned goals or values also contribute to poor choices. When people make decisions that conflict with their true priorities or ethical beliefs, the results may seem logical superficially but ultimately lead to dissatisfaction or harm. In some cases, overcomplication or analysis paralysis causes unwise decisions. When faced with numerous options or complex scenarios, individuals may overthink or delay decision-making. This mental overload can lead to procrastination, defaulting to less optimal options, or making hasty compromises. Even when a decision seems rational, external circumstances such as economic changes, natural disasters, or unexpected personal events can render it unwise. Human tendency to underestimate randomness and overestimate control often exacerbates the consequences of these unpredictable factors. 2. Emotional influence. Emotions are an essential part of the human experience. They guide our actions, shape our perceptions, and color our interactions with the world. While emotions are necessary for motivation and creativity, they can also significantly interfere with decision-making. Emotional influence is one of the most powerful causes of unwise decisions because it can override logic, distort judgment, and lead individuals to make choices that feel right in the moment but have negative long-term consequences. When people make decisions while experiencing strong emotions, such as anger, fear, sadness, or excitement, they often focus on immediate feelings rather than carefully evaluating potential outcomes. For example, a person who is angry might make a hasty comment in a professional setting, damaging relationships or opportunities. Fear can cause excessive caution, making someone avoid opportunities that could have led to growth or success. Excitement or overconfidence can prompt impulsive purchases, risky financial investments, or reckless behaviors, all without proper consideration of consequences. Even emotions as subtle as mild frustration or stress can push someone toward short-sighted choices, such as skipping important research, agreeing to unfavorable terms in a contract, or making a hasty career decision. The psychology behind emotional influence explains why it can be so powerful. When emotions are strong, the amygdala, a part of the brain responsible for survival instincts and rapid reactions, becomes highly active. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which governs logical thinking, reasoning, and long-term planning, becomes less effective. This neurological imbalance makes individuals more likely to act impulsively and less likely to pause and analyze options. Essentially, emotions hijack the decision-making process, often leading to choices that prioritize immediate satisfaction over long-term benefits. Emotional influence also interacts with other factors that contribute to poor decision-making. For instance, emotions can amplify cognitive biases. Optimism or excitement may make risky investments seem safer than they are, while fear or anxiety can exaggerate potential dangers, discouraging rational evaluation. Social pressures can further complicate matters. Emotions like the desire for acceptance or fear of rejection can make individuals conform to group opinions even when they suspect the choice is not in their best interest. Peer influence combined with emotional arousal can create a perfect storm for unwise decisions. Real-life examples illustrate how emotions can cloud judgment. Consider financial decisions. People often sell investments during market panics driven by fear or by trending assets due to excitement, leading to losses that could have been avoided with a calmer, more analytical approach. In relationships, emotions such as jealousy, anger, or infatuation can result in impulsive actions, such as ending a partnership or committing without proper consideration, which may later cause regret. Even in everyday life, emotional decision-making appears when someone splurges on unnecessary items to cope with stress or sadness, prioritizing temporary pleasure over financial stability. Understanding emotional influence is crucial for improving decision-making. One effective strategy is mindfulness, practicing awareness of one's emotional state before making decisions. Techniques such as taking a pause, reflecting on long-term consequences, or consulting a trusted advisor can help mitigate the immediate impact of strong emotions. Emotional intelligence also plays a key role. The ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions enables individuals to balance intuition and rational analysis, reducing the likelihood of regretful choices. It is also important to recognize that emotions are not inherently negative in decision-making. Emotions like empathy, compassion, or excitement about a meaningful goal can enhance decision quality by motivating actions aligned with values and long-term objectives. The problem arises when emotions dominate reasoning without balance, steering choices toward impulsive or short-sighted outcomes. Point 3. Cognitive biases. Human decision-making is often assumed to be logical and rational, yet research in psychology and behavioral economics has shown that our minds are prone to systematic errors, known as cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts or patterns of thinking that can distort reality, simplify complex information, and speed up decisions. While they help manage the overwhelming amount of information we encounter daily, they frequently lead to unwise decisions, as they prevent individuals from objectively evaluating situations and considering all relevant factors. One of the most common cognitive biases is confirmation bias, which occurs when people favor information that supports their pre-existing beliefs while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. For example, an investor may focus only on positive news about a company they like, disregarding warning signs or financial reports that suggest risks. This selective perception reinforces flawed judgments and can lead to poor outcomes, such as financial losses or misguided strategic decisions. Another prevalent bias is anchoring, where individuals rely too heavily on the first piece of information they receive. This initial reference point shapes subsequent judgments, even if it is irrelevant or arbitrary. For instance, A customer may perceive a $500 product as cheap simply because the first item they saw was priced at $1,000, regardless of the actual value or utility of the product. Anchoring can distort decision-making in negotiations, pricing, and forecasting, causing people to make choices that are not truly rational. Overconfidence bias is another significant factor contributing to unwise decisions. People often overestimate their knowledge, abilities, or the accuracy of their predictions. This bias can lead to taking excessive risks, underestimating challenges, or neglecting critical research. For instance, a novice entrepreneur might start a business without adequate planning, believing their idea is foolproof and ultimately face failure. Overconfidence also interacts with other biases, magnifying errors in judgment. Availability bias is the tendency to judge the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. Dramatic or recent experiences often weigh disproportionately in decision-making. For example, after hearing about a rare but vivid airline accident in the news, someone may avoid flying despite statistical evidence that it is safer than driving. This bias can result in decisions that are emotionally driven rather than evidence-based. Cognitive biases are particularly influential because they operate subconsciously, often without the individual realizing it. They affect how we perceive, interpret, and remember information, shaping decisions in ways that may seem rational on the surface but are flawed in practice. They can also interact with emotions and social influences. For example, optimism bias may lead someone to underestimate risks in a group investment project because they feel excited and pressured to conform to the team's enthusiasm. In real-world situations, cognitive biases manifest in business, finance, personal relationships, and everyday life. In finance, biases such as herd mentality and confirmation bias can trigger market bubbles, as investors follow trends without analyzing underlying fundamentals. In healthcare, availability bias might cause a doctor to diagnose a patient based on recent cases rather than a thorough assessment. Even in daily life, people fall victim to biases when making shopping decisions, career choices, or personal commitments. Mitigating the impact of cognitive biases requires conscious effort. Strategies include seeking diverse perspectives, questioning assumptions, using data-driven analysis, and creating structured decision-making processes. Awareness of one's biases is the first step, but implementing practical tools to counteract them ensures more rational and informed choices. Decision-making frameworks, checklists, and critical thinking exercises can reduce the influence of cognitive biases and improve outcomes. Point 4. Social influence and peer pressure. Human beings are inherently social creatures. Our decisions are not made in isolation but are shaped by the expectations, opinions, and behaviors of those around us. While social connections can provide valuable guidance, mentorship, and support, they can also lead to unwise decisions when individuals prioritize approval or conformity over rational judgment. Social influence and peer pressure are therefore significant causes of poor decision-making, often resulting in choices that conflict with personal goals, values, or best interests. One of the most common ways social influence affects decisions is through peer pressure, which occurs when individuals feel compelled to act in a way that aligns with the expectations of a group. People often seek acceptance and fear rejection, so they may make choices that satisfy others rather than themselves. For example, a teenager might engage in risky behavior, such as underage drinking or dangerous stunts, to fit in with friends, even when they know the activity is unsafe or harmful. In adulthood, peer pressure may manifest differently. For instance, employees agreeing with a group decision they privately doubt, simply to avoid conflict or appear cooperative. Social conformity is another mechanism through which decisions are influenced. Conformity occurs when individuals align their behavior with the majority, even when it contradicts their own judgment. In business, this might look like investors following popular trends in the stock market without analyzing the fundamentals of a company, leading to financial losses. In everyday life, conformity can influence choices such as buying fashionable products, adopting certain lifestyles, or supporting popular opinions, regardless of personal values or long-term consequences. The psychological basis for social influence lies in our deep-seated need for belonging and acceptance. Humans are wired to connect with others. Belonging to a social group historically increased survival chance. However, this instinct can override logical reasoning, making people more likely to adopt the opinions or behaviors of the group rather than critically evaluating alternatives. Social proof, a type of influence where people assume that the actions of others reflect correct behavior, often amplifies this effect. For instance, if many people are investing in a trending cryptocurrency, others may join in without understanding the risks, assuming the popularity signals safety or legitimacy. Social influence also interacts with emotions and cognitive biases, creating a compounded effect on decision-making. Anxiety about social judgment can amplify the fear of missing out, FOMO, leading to impulsive purchases or hasty career moves. Similarly, the desire to be part of a group can strengthen confirmation bias, as individuals selectively attend to information that validates the group's stance while ignoring contrary evidence. These dynamics explain why even highly intelligent and rational individuals can fall victim to poor decisions under social pressure. Real-life examples abound. In professional environments, employees may stay in unfulfilling jobs because their social circle validates the choice, fearing judgment if they resign. In investment markets, herd mentality can drive bubbles and crashes, as individuals follow mass behavior rather than rely on independent analysis. Even in personal relationships, people may adopt values, habits, or behaviors that do not align with their own priorities, simply to maintain social harmony or approval. Addressing the influence of social pressure requires self-awareness and deliberate action. Developing the courage to make independent decisions, critically evaluating popular opinions, and seeking diverse perspectives can reduce susceptibility to conformity. Techniques such as reflection, consultation with trusted advisors outside one's immediate social group, and structured decision-making processes help individuals resist undue influence. Recognizing the role of social dynamics in decision-making allows people to separate authentic choices from those motivated by the desire to fit in. Point 5. Short-term thinking. Short-term thinking is a major factor that contributes to unwise decision-making. It occurs when individuals prioritize immediate rewards or gratification over long-term benefits and consequences. While focusing on the present can sometimes be beneficial for urgent tasks, consistently making decisions based on short-term outcomes can lead to poor choices, missed opportunities, and long-term negative effects. One of the reasons short-term thinking leads to unwise decisions is the human tendency known as present bias. People naturally assign more value to rewards they can obtain immediately compared to rewards that are delayed, even if the delayed rewards are significantly larger or more beneficial. For example, someone might choose to spend money on luxury items or entertainment now instead of saving for a future goal, such as buying a home or building an emergency fund. While the immediate pleasure feels satisfying, it may undermine long-term financial stability. Short-term thinking often manifests in areas such as health, finance, and career planning. In terms of health, people frequently opt for indulgent foods or skip exercise because the immediate comfort outweighs the long-term benefits of discipline and healthy habits. In business and finance, companies or investors sometimes make decisions that boost short-term profits but harm sustainability or long-term growth. For instance, a company might cut research and development or underinvest in employee training to improve quarterly earnings, ultimately jeopardizing innovation and competitiveness. Psychologically, short-term thinking is reinforced by emotional responses. Impulse, excitement, or the desire for instant gratification can override rational evaluation of future consequences. Social pressures and cultural norms emphasizing speed and immediate results further exacerbate the problem, making it more difficult for individuals to delay gratification in favor of long-term benefits. Another consequence of short-term thinking is failure to plan for the future. Individuals and organizations that focus excessively on immediate outcomes often neglect preparation for unforeseen challenges or opportunities. For example, a person may spend their monthly salary freely without saving for unexpected emergencies, while a business may prioritize marketing campaigns over infrastructure improvements, leaving both vulnerable to crises. In both cases, the inability to consider long-term implications increases the likelihood of unwise outcomes. Short-term thinking also interacts with other decision-making challenges, such as cognitive biases and emotional influence. The combination of present bias with overconfidence can lead someone to believe they can catch up later, justifying impulsive decisions. Similarly, emotional impulses like stress or excitement can make immediate rewards appear even more attractive, further discouraging consideration of long-term consequences. Mitigating the influence of short-term thinking requires conscious strategies and mindset shifts. Setting clear long-term goals, creating structured plans, and using tools like budgeting, timelines, or checklists can help individuals focus on future outcomes. Delaying gratification and evaluating decisions based on both immediate and long-term consequences improves judgment and reduces the risk of regret. Additionally, cultivating patience and self-discipline can help counter the natural human tendency to favor the present over the future. 6. Lack of experience or knowledge. One of the most common causes of unwise decisions is lack of experience or knowledge. Making good decisions often requires understanding the situation, anticipating potential consequences, and evaluating alternatives. When individuals do not possess sufficient information, skills, or past experience, they are more likely to make choices that are poorly informed, risky, or ineffective. Lack of knowledge can take many forms. It may involve not knowing key facts, not understanding the context, or having insufficient technical or practical skills. For instance, an investor without knowledge of financial markets might purchase stocks based on trends or rumors rather than careful analysis, resulting in significant losses. Similarly, a new manager without experience may struggle to make effective team decisions, misjudging workflows or failing to anticipate conflicts, ultimately affecting productivity and morale. Experience is equally critical. Decision-making often relies on lessons learned from past successes and failures. Without prior exposure to similar situations, individuals may fail to recognize warning signs, underestimate risks, or misjudge outcomes. For example, a first-time entrepreneur may launch a business without understanding market dynamics, customer behavior, or operational challenges, making decisions that more seasoned business owners would avoid. Experience provides a mental framework for evaluating options and predicting potential consequences, making its absence a major contributor to poor decision-making. Psychologically, lack of experience or knowledge can also foster overconfidence or reliance on intuition. People may assume they understand a situation better than they actually do, leading to risky or impulsive choices. Novices often rely on gut feelings or superficial indicators rather than structured analysis, which can increase errors. This is particularly dangerous when combined with other factors such as emotional influence, peer pressure, or cognitive biases, amplifying the likelihood of unwise decisions. The consequences of decisions made without sufficient knowledge or experience are widespread. In financial matters, individuals may make poor investment choices or fall victim to scams. In professional settings, managers or employees may implement ineffective strategies, leading to losses, missed opportunities, or team dissatisfaction. Even in personal life, lack of knowledge, such as not understanding health risks or legal obligations, can result in decisions that have long-term negative impacts. Addressing this cause requires deliberate learning and preparation. Acquiring knowledge through research, education, or mentorship improves the quality of decisions. Gaining experience, even in small steps or controlled environments, helps individuals develop judgment and recognize patterns. Consulting experts, seeking advice from experienced individuals, and learning from past mistakes are all effective strategies to compensate for gaps in knowledge and experience. Moreover, cultivating humility is essential. Recognizing the limits of one's understanding encourages individuals to seek guidance, analyze information critically, and avoid overestimating their competence. Combining knowledge, experience, and self-awareness enhances decision-making abilities and reduces the likelihood of unwise choices. Point 7. Stress and fatigue. Stress and fatigue are silent but powerful forces that can significantly impair decision-making. While everyone experiences stress and tiredness at some point, their effects on judgment are often underestimated. When the brain is under pressure or exhausted, its ability to process information, weigh options, and foresee consequences diminishes, increasing the likelihood of unwise decisions. Stress triggers physiological and psychological responses that prioritize immediate survival over long-term planning. When faced with high-pressure situations, the body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which activate the fight-or-flight response. While this is useful for immediate threats, it reduces the brain's capacity for rational analysis, careful reasoning, and consideration of future consequences. For example, an employee facing a tight deadline may hastily approve a flawed project plan, leading to errors that could have been avoided with calmer evaluation. Fatigue has a similarly profound effect on decision-making. Physical or mental exhaustion reduces cognitive functioning, slowing attention, impairing memory, and diminishing problem-solving skills. A person making decisions while sleep-deprived may overlook critical information, misinterpret data, or struggle to think through complex scenarios. For instance, a tired driver might make risky maneuvers on the road, and a fatigued investor might panic sell stocks without analyzing market trends. In both cases, decisions are compromised due to diminished mental capacity. Stress and fatigue also amplify other factors that contribute to poor decisions, such as emotional influence and cognitive biases. A stressed individual is more likely to react impulsively, allowing emotions like anger or fear to dominate rational thinking. Similarly, fatigue can worsen overconfidence or confirmation bias, as the brain relies on mental shortcuts rather than deliberate analysis. These interactions create a compounding effect, making it even more difficult to make sound decisions. The consequences of decision-making under stress and fatigue are far-reaching. In professional settings, leaders may make poor strategic choices, overlook risks, or mismanage teams. In personal life, individuals may engage in impulsive spending, unhealthy eating, or unsafe behaviors. Chronic stress and exhaustion can also erode long-term judgment, as repeated reliance on rapid, emotionally driven decisions reinforces poor habits and diminishes resilience. Mitigating the impact of stress and fatigue requires conscious effort and lifestyle management. Strategies include prioritizing adequate sleep, taking breaks during mentally demanding tasks, practicing stress reduction techniques such as mindfulness or deep breathing, and allocating time for rest and recovery. For high-stakes decisions, delaying action until one is well-rested and emotionally balanced can significantly improve outcomes. Additionally, building decision-making frameworks and routines can reduce cognitive load, allowing the brain to function more effectively even under pressure. 8. Misaligned goals or values. One of the subtler yet powerful causes of unwise decisions is the misalignment of goals or personal values. Many people make choices that appear logical on the surface, such as pursuing a job, investment, or relationship, but fail to consider whether these choices are consistent with their true priorities, beliefs, and long-term objectives. When actions conflict with what a person genuinely values, Even well-intentioned decisions can lead to dissatisfaction, regret, or unintended consequences. Misalignment often arises when individuals pursue external expectations or societal norms rather than internal motivations. For example, someone might accept a high-paying job because their family or social circle values financial success, even if the role conflicts with their personal passions or ethical beliefs. Over time, this can lead to burnout, dissatisfaction, or even moral conflict, illustrating how decisions that are externally rational may be internally unwise. Goals and values guide decision-making by providing a framework for evaluating options. When this framework is absent or ignored, individuals are more susceptible to impulsive, emotionally driven, or socially influenced choices. For instance, a person may invest in a trendy asset without considering their long-term financial security or risk tolerance, simply because it seems popular or profitable in the short term. Such decisions may yield immediate satisfaction but undermine broader objectives, like financial stability or personal growth. Psychologically, misaligned goals create internal tension that clouds judgment. Conflicting priorities can lead to indecision, second-guessing, or rationalization, where individuals justify choices that do not serve their deeper values. This internal conflict not only affects the quality of decisions but also reduces confidence in decision-making, increasing susceptibility to external pressures such as peer influence, social conformity, or marketing tactics. Real-life examples abound. In personal life, misalignment can occur when people prioritize relationships or social status over authentic desires, leading to stress, frustration, or poor relational outcomes. In business, employees may chase quarterly profits at the expense of ethical practices or long-term growth, creating decisions that are profitable initially but detrimental in the long run. Investors or entrepreneurs may pursue opportunities misaligned with their risk tolerance or personal mission, resulting in financial or emotional losses. Correcting misalignment requires self-awareness and reflection. Individuals should regularly assess their goals, priorities, and values to ensure that decisions support their long-term objectives. Techniques such as journaling, goal-setting exercises, or consulting mentors can help clarify what truly matters. When goals and values are clearly defined, decisions can be evaluated against them, reducing the risk of unwise choices influenced by external pressures or short-term desires. 9. Overcomplication and analysis paralysis. Decision-making is often portrayed as a rational process, but in reality, humans frequently struggle with overcomplication and analysis paralysis, two interconnected factors that can lead to unwise choices. Overcomplication occurs when individuals make situations unnecessarily complex, adding layers of detail, assumptions, or contingencies that cloud judgment. Analysis paralysis happens when overthinking prevents timely decisions, causing indecision, missed opportunities, or defaulting to suboptimal choices. Together, these factors can severely impair effective decision-making. Overcomplication often arises from the desire to make the perfect choice. Individuals may seek exhaustive information, consider countless scenarios, or attempt to predict every possible outcome. While thorough analysis can be valuable, excessive complexity can overwhelm the mind and obscure the core issues. For example, a business executive attempting to launch a new product might become bogged down in market research, financial projections, and contingency plans, delaying the launch and allowing competitors to gain an advantage. In this way, the pursuit of perfection ironically results in poor outcomes. Analysis paralysis is a natural consequence of overcomplication. When faced with too many options or too much information, individuals may become unable to make any decision at all. This is especially common in high-stakes or ambiguous situations. For instance, an investor may struggle to choose among multiple investment opportunities, delaying action until the best opportunity has passed. Similarly, A student may spend excessive time researching which university program to pursue, ultimately missing application deadlines or settling for a less ideal choice. Psychologically, overcomplication and analysis paralysis are reinforced by fear of failure, perfectionism, and uncertainty. Individuals may fear making a mistake, leading them to overanalyze every detail or seek endless validation before acting. While caution is important, excessive fear and the pursuit of certainty can prevent decisive action, which is often critical for success. Cognitive overload also plays a role. When the brain is confronted with too much information, attention and reasoning capabilities diminish, increasing the likelihood of errors or defaulting to familiar but suboptimal options. Real-life examples of overcomplication and analysis paralysis are widespread in finance. Investors may miss profitable opportunities by waiting for the perfect moment to buy or sell. In business, leaders may delay strategic decisions due to overanalyzing market trends, resulting in lost market share. Even in personal life, individuals may overthink choices such as moving to a new city, buying a house, or choosing a career path, leading to stress, indecision, and missed opportunities. Mitigating the effects of overcomplication and analysis paralysis requires simplification, prioritization, and structured decision-making. Breaking problems into smaller, manageable components, identifying critical criteria for success, and setting clear deadlines can reduce cognitive overload. Adopting decision-making frameworks, such as pros and cons lists, cost-benefit analysis, or decision matrices, can provide clarity and guide action. Additionally, accepting that no decision is perfect and embracing calculated risks can prevent stagnation and improve outcomes. Point 10. External circumstances and unpredictable factors. While careful reasoning, knowledge, and experience are essential for good decision-making, even the most rational and well-informed choices can fail due to external circumstances and unpredictable factors. These are elements beyond an individual's control that can dramatically alter outcomes, making otherwise wise decisions appear unwise in hindsight. Understanding the role of these factors helps explain why decision-making is inherently uncertain and why flexibility and adaptability are crucial. External circumstances include economic shifts, natural disasters, political changes, technological disruptions, or sudden personal events. Even with meticulous planning, these forces can undermine expected outcomes. For example, a company may invest heavily in expanding a product line based on market research, only to have consumer demand drop due to an unexpected economic recession. Similarly, an individual might plan a vacation month in advance, only to have it disrupted by severe weather or travel restrictions. In both cases, the decisions were reasonable based on available information, but unpredictable external factors rendered them unwise. The psychological challenge posed by external unpredictability is that humans tend to overestimate control over outcomes. People often assume that careful planning, knowledge, and effort guarantee success, neglecting the role of randomness and chance. This overconfidence can lead to underestimating risks and overcommitting resources, making decisions more vulnerable to external shocks. The inability to anticipate or manage every possible outcome highlights the limits of rational decision-making. External factors also interact with other causes of unwise decisions, such as short-term thinking, stress, and cognitive biases. For instance, during market volatility, fear or excitement may amplify impulsive decisions, while limited knowledge can prevent individuals from adapting to sudden changes. Social pressures may also influence reactions to external events, causing people to follow trends or mimic others in ways that worsen outcomes. Real-life examples illustrate the pervasive impact of unpredictable factors. In business, natural disasters, supply chain disruptions, or geopolitical tensions can derail projects, even when managers have done everything right. In personal finance, Sudden medical emergencies or unexpected job loss can render financial decisions, like large purchases or investments, unwise. Even in daily life, unpredictable events such as traffic accidents, technology failures, or sudden personal responsibilities can interfere with previously rational plans. Mitigating the impact of external unpredictability requires flexibility, contingency planning, and risk management. While it is impossible to control every variable, individuals and organizations can anticipate potential risks, diversify resources, maintain emergency reserves, and develop adaptive strategies. Cultivating resilience, both mental and operational, enables decision-makers to respond effectively when unforeseen circumstances arise, reducing the negative consequences of unpredictable events. To become a wise decision-maker, one must develop certain habits and attitudes. 1. Think before acting. In life, every action we take begins with a single thought. The way we think determines what we do, and what we do defines who we become. Among the many principles that guide wise decision-making, one of the most important is learning to think before acting. This simple idea holds tremendous power. It can save us from mistakes, protect our relationships, and guide us toward success. Thinking before acting means pausing for a moment, reflecting on the situation, and carefully considering the consequences of our choices before taking action. It teaches us to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. In today's fast-moving world, people often act too quickly. Many make decisions driven by emotions, peer pressure, or temporary desires without thinking about what might happen next. As a result, they experience regret, guilt, or even failure. Learning to stop and think before making a decision is a sign of maturity and wisdom. It helps people avoid unnecessary problems, make better judgments, and live a life guided by reason rather than impulse. When we take time to think, we give ourselves the opportunity to make the right choice, one that benefits us and those around us. Thinking before acting is the first and most essential step in making wise decisions. It encourages self-control, patience, and awareness. When we think carefully, we are more likely to understand a situation fully, predict the possible outcomes, and choose the path that leads to positive results. It also allows us to balance emotion with logic. Sometimes, people let their feelings control their actions. Anger leads to harsh words, excitement leads to poor spending, and fear leads to missed opportunities. However, when we take a moment to think, we give logic a chance to guide emotion. Wise decision-makers understand that every action has a reaction. A single careless act can destroy years of effort, while one thoughtful action can create lasting happiness. Thinking before acting also shows respect for ourselves, for others, and for the consequences of our behavior. It helps us build a reputation for being reliable, responsible, and mature. People who practice thoughtful decision-making are often trusted and admired because they demonstrate discipline and sound judgment. One of the biggest causes of acting without thinking is emotional impulse. Human emotions are powerful and can influence our judgment in an instant. When we are angry, hurt, jealous, or overly excited, we may lose control over our thoughts and act in ways we later regret. Many people make decisions during emotional storms, saying hurtful words, making promises they cannot keep, or taking actions they did not truly mean. Acting under the influence of emotion clouds the ability to see things logically. Instead of analyzing the situation calmly, people react quickly, believing that they are solving the problem, when in fact they are creating new ones. Another common cause is social pressure, especially among young people. The desire to be accepted or admired by others can push individuals to make quick decisions without reflection. They may agree to things they know are wrong simply to fit in or impress their friends. Social influence can be a dangerous force because it tricks people into believing that popularity is more important than principles. As a result, Many young individuals end up making choices that go against their values, leading to long-term regret and emotional pain. In addition, lack of experience and poor self-awareness can also cause people to act without thinking. When individuals have not learned to evaluate the consequences of their actions, they often underestimate the seriousness of their decisions. They may think, it's just one time or nothing bad will happen, without realizing how quickly one small choice can lead to bigger problems. Furthermore, impatience, the unwillingness to wait or reflect, can also drive people to act impulsively. In a fast-moving world where everything seems urgent, people often rush to make decisions without giving themselves the time to think clearly. 2. Gather information. Making wise decisions in life is not a matter of luck or guessing. It is a process that requires patience, understanding, and knowledge. Every decision we make, whether big or small, has consequences that shape our future. Some people make decisions quickly, guided by emotions or instincts, while others take their time to think and gather the necessary information before taking action. The truth is, wise decision-making depends greatly on how much information we have. Without enough information, we risk making choices based on assumptions or incomplete facts, which can lead to mistakes and regrets. That is why gathering information is one of the most important steps in making wise decisions in life. When people gather information before making a decision, they allow themselves to see the situation clearly from different angles. It is like using a flashlight in a dark room. The lighter you have, the better you can see what is around you. In the same way, the more information you gather, the more likely you are to make the right choice. Acting without information, on the other hand, is like walking blindly into the unknown. Many people make poor decisions simply because they do not take the time to learn enough about their choices. They rely on their emotions, assumptions, or what others say, rather than facts and evidence. As a result, they end up facing problems that could have been avoided. Gathering information begins with understanding the problem or goal you are trying to reach. Before making any major decision, it is essential to ask questions like, what do I really want? What options do I have? What are the possible outcomes of each choice? These questions help clarify your purpose and guide your research. For example, if a student is deciding which university to attend, they should gather information about the programs offered, tuition fees, scholarship opportunities, location, and future career prospects. Without this information, the student might choose a university that does not truly meet their needs or support their goals. Another key part of gathering information is finding reliable and trustworthy sources. In today's world, information is everywhere, on the internet, in books, in conversations, and on social media. But not all of it is accurate or useful. Wise decision-makers know how to separate truth from opinion. They rely on credible sources such as research, official websites, and expert advice. For instance, if someone is making a financial decision, such as investing in a business, they should study the market, consult financial advisors, and read reports from reliable sources before investing their money. Acting based on rumors or emotions can lead to financial loss and regret. Real-life examples from successful people also show the importance of gathering information before making a decision. Take Elon Musk, for instance, one of the most well-known innovators in the world. Before he founded SpaceX, he spent years studying engineering, rocket science, and the space industry. He read books, consulted experts, and learned every detail about how rockets work. His decision to start SpaceX was not based on a dream alone. It was based on deep research and knowledge. Because he gathered the right information, he was able to build a company that revolutionized space travel. If Musk had acted without research, relying only on his excitement or ambition, SpaceX might have failed like many other space startups before it. Another great example is Oprah Winfrey, a global media leader and philanthropist. When she decided to create her own television network, the Oprah Winfrey Network, she did not rush into it blindly. She spent years gathering information about media trends, audience behavior, and production challenges. At first, her network struggled, but because she had carefully studied the market and sought advice from experts, she was able to adjust her strategy. Her thoughtful, informed approach turned the network into a long-term success. Oprah's story proves that gathering information gives a person the power to adapt, learn, and make better decisions over time. Gathering information also means considering all possible outcomes and weighing the pros and cons of each choice. Wise decision-makers analyze risks before acting. For instance, Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, is famous for his careful research before making investment decisions. He reads financial reports, studies companies' performance, and never invests in something he does not understand. His success is not based on luck. It is built on knowledge. Buffett often says, "Risk comes from not knowing what you are doing." This quote perfectly describes why gathering information is so essential to making wise decisions. The benefits of gathering information are countless. It reduces the chance of making mistakes, increases confidence, and saves time and money. People who make decisions based on research and facts are more likely to achieve their goals and less likely to regret their actions later. Gathering information also strengthens critical thinking. It helps people see things logically, question assumptions, and make choices that match their values and long-term plans. On the other hand, failing to gather information can have serious effects. Many failures in life and business come from making decisions too quickly. During the dot-com boom of the early 2000s, for example, thousands of investors put their money into internet companies without understanding how those companies worked. They were driven by excitement and fear of missing out, not by knowledge. When the market crashed, most of those businesses collapsed, and investors lost billions. This event shows what happens when people act without proper information. They make decisions that may seem smart in the moment but end in disaster. 3. Consider consequences. Making wise decisions in life is not just about gathering information or thinking carefully. It is also about understanding the possible outcomes before taking action. Every decision, no matter how small, leads to a result. Some outcomes may bring happiness, success, and growth, while others may lead to regret, loss, or failure. Considering the consequences means looking ahead, imagining how our choices might affect our future, and choosing the option that brings long-term benefit rather than short-term pleasure. It is the ability to think beyond the present moment, to predict how our decisions today will shape our lives tomorrow. One of the main causes of poor decision-making is that many people act without thinking about the results. They focus only on what feels good right now, not on what might happen later. This kind of short-sighted thinking often leads to regret. People may spend money carelessly, speak harshly in anger, or take risky shortcuts just to satisfy their immediate desires. These choices might bring temporary happiness, but the long-term effects are often painful. For example, a teenager who decides to skip school or ignore their studies may feel free in the moment, but later, they might struggle with fewer opportunities, disappointment, and regret. The cause of such problems lies not in bad luck, but in failing to consider the consequences of their decisions. Considering consequences requires patience and maturity. Wise people understand that every action has a reaction, and they think before they move forward. They take time to imagine the different outcomes and ask themselves, what will happen if I do this? How will it affect my future, my relationships, and my goals? This habit helps prevent many mistakes and allows people to make decisions that bring peace and stability in the long run. A powerful real-life example of considering consequences can be seen in the story of J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. Before becoming one of the world's most famous writers, Rowling faced poverty, rejection, and depression. When she finished her first book, She was a single mother living on government support. She had two choices: to give up writing and look for an easier job, or to take the risk of sending her manuscript to publishers. Rowling thought deeply about the possible consequences. If she gave up, she would have stability but always wonder, what if? If she tried, she might fail, but she could also change her life. After careful thought, she decided to take the chance. Her choice was not made blindly. She considered the risks, the potential rewards, and the long-term impact on her life. Her courage and foresight led to global success. Her story shows that considering consequences doesn't mean avoiding risk. It means understanding the risk and preparing for it wisely. Another inspiring example comes from Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa and a global symbol of peace and justice. During his fight against apartheid, Mandela faced the choice between violence and peaceful resistance. Many around him were angry and wanted revenge against the oppressive government, but Mandela thought deeply about the consequences of such actions. He realized that using violence would only lead to more hate and division, not freedom and equality. Instead, he chose the harder but wiser path of forgiveness and reconciliation. The effect of his decision was not immediate. He spent 27 years in prison. However, when he was finally released, his choice to promote peace instead of revenge united his country and changed the course of history. Mandela's decision was rooted in wisdom. He saw beyond his own pain and considered the future of his nation. This example shows that wise decision-makers always think about the long-term effects of their actions, not just their emotions in the moment. Considering consequences also means understanding how our choices affect others. Many unwise decisions are made when people think only about themselves. Wise individuals, on the other hand, recognize that their actions can influence their family, friends, co-workers, and even society. For example, a business leader who makes decisions only for short-term profit may harm the environment, mistreat employees, or damage public trust. But a wise leader who considers the broader consequences will create sustainable success. They understand that success built on honesty, fairness, and care for others lasts longer than success built on greed or selfishness. A good modern example of this can be seen in Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. When he took leadership, Microsoft was losing its innovative spirit and facing criticism for being too competitive and rigid. Instead of focusing only on profits, Nadella thought deeply about the long-term consequences of continuing that culture. He decided to reshape Microsoft's values around empathy, collaboration, and growth mindset. This decision not only improved the company's reputation but also boosted its global success. Nadella's leadership shows that when people consider the consequences of their choices on others, they can create lasting positive change. The effects of considering consequences reach every part of life. People who take time to think about outcomes often make more stable, peaceful, and successful choices. They avoid unnecessary conflicts and regrets because they see things clearly before acting. For example, a person who considers the consequence of eating unhealthy food every day might realize that it will affect their health, energy, and confidence in the future. With this awareness, they can make better choices for their well-being. Similarly, someone who thinks before speaking harshly can prevent hurting others and protect their relationships. These small moments of awareness, repeated daily, shape a wise and meaningful life. On the other hand, ignoring consequences can cause serious problems. History and real life are full of stories of people who made reckless choices without thinking. Some spent money carelessly and fell into debt. Others broke trust, lost friendships, or ruined their reputations. Once the damage is done, it can take years to rebuild what was lost. This is why considering consequences is not just an intellectual habit, it is a moral responsibility. It teaches us to pause, reflect, and act with understanding. Moreover, considering consequences helps build emotional intelligence. It allows people to control their impulses and think logically even in difficult situations. For instance, when facing anger, disappointment, or temptation, those who pause to think about what might happen next are more likely to choose wisely. They learn to respond, not react. This skill is what separates thoughtful individuals from impulsive ones. In the journey of life, every decision opens one door and closes another. When we take time to think about which doors we want to open, we create a path that leads to success, peace, and happiness. As J.K. Rowling once said, "It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." Those who consider the consequences of their actions are the ones who live with fewer regrets and greater fulfillment. 4. Control your emotion. One of the most important steps in making wise decisions in life is learning to control your emotions. Emotions are powerful forces that can guide us, but if left unchecked, they can also mislead us. When people allow anger, fear, excitement, or sadness to take control, they often make choices that they later regret. On the other hand, when we manage our emotions wisely, we give ourselves the ability to think clearly, act calmly, and choose the best path forward. Emotional control is not about ignoring feelings. It's about understanding them and making sure they don't control our actions. The cause of many poor decisions in life often comes from acting purely on emotion. Human beings naturally respond to situations with feelings before logic. For example, when someone feels insulted or angry, their first reaction might be to fight back or say something hurtful. When someone feels afraid, they might run away from a challenge that could have helped them grow. And when someone feels excited, they might rush into a decision, like spending too much money or trusting the wrong person, without thinking it through. These impulsive reactions come from emotions that overpower rational thinking. The cause is not the emotion itself, but the inability to pause and reflect before acting on it. The effect of acting without emotional control can be serious. It can damage relationships, harm reputations, or create long-term regret. People who let anger or jealousy rule them often say or do things they wish they could take back. In contrast, those who can stay calm under pressure often make smarter choices and earn greater respect from others. Emotional control is therefore not just a personal strength. It's a skill that affects success, leadership, and happiness. A real-life example that beautifully demonstrates emotional control is Barack Obama, the former president of the United States. During his time in office, he faced constant criticism, political opposition, and pressure from both supporters and opponents. Yet, Obama was widely admired for his calm and composed manner, even in moments of crisis. When confronted with anger or insult, he chose to respond with patience and thoughtful speech. He once said, "You can't let your failures define you. You have to let them teach you." His ability to remain emotionally steady allowed him to lead effectively, inspire millions, and make rational decisions even in difficult times. This shows that when emotions are managed properly, they become a source of strength rather than weakness. Another powerful example comes from Serena Williams, one of the greatest athletes in the world. In her tennis career, she has faced defeat, unfair judgments, and public criticism. There were moments when she could have easily let frustration take over. Yet Serena learned to channel her emotions into focus and discipline. Instead of giving up after losses, she used her disappointment as motivation to train harder. Her emotional control helped her achieve 23 Grand Slam titles and earn global respect not only for her talent but also for her resilience. Serena's journey shows that emotions can either destroy or drive success. The difference depends on how we manage them. Controlling emotions also means being able to make decisions based on reason rather than reaction. When emotions are high, the brain's ability to think clearly becomes weaker. This is why people often regret what they said or did, in the heat of the moment. Wise decision-makers recognize this and give themselves time to calm down before deciding. For instance, when someone feels extremely angry, taking a few deep breaths or walking away for a moment can prevent a harmful reaction. By giving emotions time to settle, people can see situations more clearly and respond in a way that aligns with their true values. Emotional control is especially important in leadership and business. Leaders who lose their temper or make impulsive decisions can easily destroy trust and morale within their teams. But leaders who stay calm and balanced during challenges inspire confidence and respect. A great example of this is Indra Nooyi, the former CEO of PepsiCo. Throughout her career, she faced difficult business challenges, cultural barriers, and intense competition. However, she was known for her emotional intelligence, her ability to listen patiently, treat employees with empathy, and make thoughtful decisions even under pressure. Her calm leadership helped PepsiCo grow stronger and more sustainable. Nooyi once said, "Leadership is hard to define, and good leadership even harder. But if you can get people to follow you to the ends of the earth, you are a great leader." This kind of leadership comes only from emotional balance and control. The effect of controlling one's emotions goes beyond success. It leads to inner peace and healthier relationships. People who master emotional control communicate better and understand others more deeply. They do not react with anger or fear but respond with empathy and patience. This strengthens trust, reduces conflict, and helps create harmony in both personal and professional life. For example, in family life, when parents control their emotions during disagreements, they teach their children calmness and respect. In friendships, emotional control prevents misunderstandings from turning into lasting arguments. Of course, learning to control emotions is not easy. It takes practice, self-awareness, and discipline. One effective method is reflection, taking time each day to think about one's feelings and actions. Asking questions like, "Why did I feel that way?" or "Could I have responded better?" helps people understand their emotions and handle them better in the future. Another helpful method is mindfulness, being aware of your thoughts and feelings without letting them control you. Many successful people, including business leaders, athletes, and artists, practice mindfulness or meditation to stay balanced and focused. Emotional control also allows people to make ethical and thoughtful choices. When emotions like greed or jealousy are left unchecked, they can lead to dishonesty, selfishness, or harmful actions. But when individuals learn to manage these emotions, they can make choices that are fair, kind, and responsible. Emotional control, therefore, is not just a mental skill. It is a moral strength that reflects one's character. In life, challenges and emotional struggles are inevitable. We will face anger, disappointment, and fear at different moments. But how we respond to those emotions determines the quality of our life. As the famous saying goes, "You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it." That response, calm, thoughtful, and wise, is what defines emotional maturity. 5. Seek advice. Making wise decisions in life often requires more than just intelligence or experience. It requires the humility to seek advice from others. No one knows everything, and even the most successful people understand that wisdom grows through learning from different perspectives. Seeking advice does not mean that we are weak or incapable of thinking for ourselves. Instead, it shows maturity, open-mindedness, and a willingness to learn. When we take time to listen to the experiences and knowledge of others, we expand our understanding and increase the chances of making the right choices. The cause of many poor decisions in life often comes from the refusal to seek advice. This usually happens when pride, overconfidence, or impatience clouds a person's judgment. Many people believe that asking for help makes them appear less capable or less intelligent. They might think, "I know what's best for me," or I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. This mindset limits their ability to see things clearly. Acting on incomplete information or personal bias can easily lead to mistakes. When people make choices alone without gathering enough input, they miss out on valuable insights that could have prevented regret later. The effect of not seeking advice can be serious. It can lead to poor financial decisions, broken relationships, or even lost opportunities. A person who refuses to listen to others may repeat the same mistakes, while someone who learns from others' experiences can move forward with fewer risks. Seeking advice, therefore, is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom and strength. It shows that we value knowledge and that we understand the importance of collective wisdom. A strong real-life example of the power of seeking advice can be seen in the life of Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft. Despite being one of the most intelligent and successful innovators in the world, Gates never relied on his own knowledge alone. Throughout his career, he constantly sought advice from mentors, experts, and business leaders. One of his closest advisors was Warren Buffett, one of the most respected investors in history. Gates once said that Buffett's advice on thinking long-term and staying calm during crises had a huge influence on how he led Microsoft and later, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. By listening to Buffett's wisdom, Gates learned the value of patience and rational decision-making. This ability to seek and apply advice contributed greatly to his success not only in technology but also in global philanthropy. This example shows that even the most brilliant minds need guidance. The cause of Gates's success was not only his intelligence but also his willingness to listen. The effect was that he made thoughtful decisions that built one of the most successful companies in history and allowed him to use his wealth to improve millions of lives. It proves that those who seek advice open doors to greater success. Another remarkable example is Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential media personalities in the world. Early in her career, Oprah faced many challenges. She grew up in poverty, faced rejection, and struggled to find her place in the broadcasting industry. However, what set her apart was her openness to learning from others. She often sought advice from mentors like Maya Angelou, the famous poet and author, who guided her not only in her career but also in life. Oprah once said that Angelou's wisdom taught her how to handle fame, criticism, and emotional struggles. Because she listened to advice, Oprah avoided many of the traps that fame often brings, such as pride or self-doubt. As a result, she became not just a successful talk show host, but also a role model for millions around the world. The cause of Oprah's wise choices was her humility to learn, and the effect was her ability to build a career that blended success with purpose. Seeking advice gave her the emotional strength to handle difficulties and the practical wisdom to make long-term decisions that aligned with her values. Her story shows that advice from trusted mentors can be a guiding light during uncertain times. Seeking advice also helps people make balanced decisions because it brings different perspectives together. Sometimes, when we are deeply involved in a situation, our emotions or desires can blind us to the truth. Talking to someone outside the situation, whether it's a friend, teacher, family member, or professional, helps us see the bigger picture. Advice from others can reveal hidden risks, suggest better options, or confirm that we are on the right track. This process of listening, reflecting, and deciding helps us avoid mistakes and gain confidence in our choices. In business, successful leaders often rely on advisory teams or mentors to guide their strategies. For example, Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, often credits the company's success to the feedback and ideas shared by his employees and business advisors. Schultz believed that leadership was not about giving orders but about listening. He once said, "When you're surrounded by people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible." His decision to seek advice from people at all levels, from baristas to executives, helped Starbucks grow into a global brand that values both quality and people. The effect of seeking advice in such situations is that decisions become more inclusive, creative, and sustainable. People who seek advice not only make better decisions but also build stronger relationships based on trust and respect. They create a culture of learning and open communication, which benefits everyone involved. However, it is also important to know whose advice to seek. Not all advice is helpful, and not everyone gives guidance with good intentions. Wise decision-makers know how to choose their advisors carefully. They seek people who are honest, experienced, and objective, those who will tell them the truth, not just what they want to hear. For instance, before making major decisions, Warren Buffett often consults his longtime partner Charlie Munger, known for his logical thinking and practical wisdom. Their partnership works because both share honesty, respect, and the goal of making decisions based on facts rather than emotions. Seeking advice also builds emotional intelligence. When we listen to others, we learn empathy, patience, and understanding. It teaches us to respect different viewpoints, which makes us more flexible and thoughtful. Moreover, it helps us grow personally. We learn to accept criticism, to see our weaknesses, and to use advice as a tool for improvement. In the end, the act of seeking advice is about recognizing that wisdom is not gained alone. Every person we meet has something to teach us. From mentors and parents to colleagues and friends, the experiences of others can help us avoid pain, find solutions, and choose wisely. Successful people like Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, and Howard Schultz remind us that listening is one of the greatest skills in life. The cause of their success was their openness to learn. The effect was their ability to make wise, far-reaching decisions that changed their industries and influenced the world. Their stories show that seeking advice is not a weakness. It is the foundation of strength and growth. In sum, the ability to make wise decisions is one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. Every choice we make, whether big or small, shapes the direction of our future. Wise decision-making is not a single skill, but a combination of patience, knowledge, emotional balance, and humility. It requires us to think before acting, to gather accurate information, to consider the consequences, to control our emotions, and to seek advice when needed. People who follow these steps tend to live with greater success, peace, and self-respect, while those who act carelessly or impulsively often face regret and disappointment. Thinking before acting gives us time to reflect and prevents us from making choices driven by temporary feelings. Gathering information helps us see the full picture, making our decisions based on facts rather than assumptions. Considering the consequences allows us to think about how our actions affect not only ourselves but also others around us. Controlling our emotions gives us clarity and calmness, ensuring that we make decisions guided by reason instead of anger, fear, or excitement. Finally, seeking advice reminds us that wisdom is not gained alone. It grows when we listen, learn, and stay open to the experiences of others. The lives of successful people like Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama, Serena Williams, and Indra Nooyi prove that wise decision-making is a key part of long-term success. They faced challenges, uncertainty, and pressure, but they made choices with patience, emotional strength, and a willingness to learn. Their stories show that wisdom is not about never making mistakes. It is about learning from them, thinking carefully, and making better choices each time. The effect of making wise decisions goes far beyond success or achievement. It builds character, confidence, and inner peace. A person who makes wise choices learns to handle challenges calmly, treat others with respect, and build a meaningful life. Wise decision-making helps us avoid unnecessary problems, strengthens relationships, and guides us toward our goals with purpose and direction. In a world full of distractions and quick decisions, wisdom reminds us to slow down, reflect, and choose carefully. Every decision, no matter how small, carries the power to change our future. When we decide with thought, patience, and integrity, we not only build a better life for ourselves, but also become an example for others to follow. Ultimately, making wise decisions is about understanding that our choices define who we are. As the old saying goes, we are the sum of our decisions. By choosing wisely, with knowledge, emotion, and wisdom in balance, we take control of our destiny and shape a future filled with success, peace, and happiness.